Hello again, everyone, and welcome to our channel. I'm Stephen.
And I'm Allie, and we are the Mindset Junkies. So it's already racing towards the half-year mark. And quite honestly, I don't know about you, Stephen, but I really don't know where the time is going right now. It's crazy, isn't it? And, if you're on track to achieve some of the goals that you set at the beginning of the year, tonight's topic might be something that has maybe crossed your mind at some point, especially if people around you are noticing some changes in you or your business aspirations, or just any changes that are going on around or in your life that relates to, the goals that you set for yourself. And there's no point of having goals if you're not going to be thinking about the success of those goals. And success is something that most of us aspire to in some way, shape, or form in our lives. And that's the real topic of this evening's discussion. We want to talk about coping with success. We all want to achieve goals and aspirations, but it can sometimes come at a price. And that can stop us in our tracks and on occasion can completely derail us, especially if those success kind of like moments catch you unawares, or they can sometimes come at a shocking realization. But I wanted to actually just sort of maybe start a little bit by talking about what success actually is. And it's really very simplistic. Success is the achievement of something that you personally have been trying to do, whether that's carving out an extra 30 minutes playtime with your toddler before bath and bedtime, or saving enough money up to buy a house. Could be losing £100, winning a competition, launching a new business. We all undertake a lot of these things because we want to have success. We want to win. We want to come out on top. So therefore, success is very much an inside job. It's something that is absolutely personal to you. And sometimes the sacrifices that you have to make to achieve success doesn't always have to be a lot. It could be that you want to sit down, you want to crack the Telegraph, crossword for that day. Sacrifice really is a little bit of concentration, a little bit of time, as opposed to, perhaps starting to dig out some weeds in the garden or whatever. So sometimes it can be quite small, and it may only be seen and felt by yourself, like you accomplishing the Telegraph crossword puzzle. You're not necessarily going to, that's not necessarily going to be something that's very visible to the world around you. And same thing might be of like mastering a new recipe or something like that. So
it's weird, this one, Ali. You mentioning that with the Telegraph puzzle. This may sound. This example may sound very, very weird to a lot of people, right? So when I'm out running, we live on kind of like a main road, and there's a lamppost and a street sign name right near my house, and there's cars always coming up the opposite direction. And right at the end of my run, I often want to beat those cars to the sign. And the thing is, I've been on a run, like that's a success, right? I've been out, but just to tip it off, I'm like, I want to beat that car there, so I'm going to go really quick to finish.
Yeah,
weird,
absolutely, absolutely. And like you say, it can be a massive, big undertaking, or it could be something that's really quite small, but you chalk it up as a major success or a major win. But what we're really sort of like talking about today really is where you have the kind of success that actually does start to become quite visible to people around you. Because that's really when the coping with the success actually takes on a very, very new kind of like feeling and new emotion, and can actually be the sort of thing that could potentially derail you. So success can be a very subjective concept, and it's very much based on a perception of what success looks like to you, but to others. So maybe I can give you a little bit of an example that can maybe bring that to life a little bit. So I've talked about this before, but just over a year ago, I went through a massive shift in my life. I knew I wasn't unhappy, but I knew that I wanted more. I knew that I wanted to be a better person. And therefore, I went through a particular journey of a sort of mindset, but also a physical shift. And I became laser focused on my goals and invested a lot of myself in my success of wanting to be a better person. And unfortunately, that particular sort of success, which, you know, I saw it as improvement, other people saw that as something different. And unfortunately, people viewed my journey in a different way, and because they felt threatened. So let me just bring a little bit of more of a picture to what this was about. So when I first started my journey, I was about six stone overweight, and you know, I started to lose a lot of weight and get physically fit. And my physical and overall psychology was shifting massively, and my confidence and overall growth trajectory was, quite frankly, pissing an awful lot of people off. The better a person I became, and when I say a better person, that was their perception of a better person. The better person I became, the higher and wider the impact that had on people around me. And so it actually really shocked me in terms of the reactions that I received from people. You know, I was suddenly a threat at work to some people. And as a result of that, I was most definitely held back by those who were not on a similar growth journey as me. In many cases, some of my work ideas would be dismissed only to be resurrected and rebadged as somebody else's idea. So it was kind of a compliment in a weird sort of way. But I started to see some changes in people that, you know, I thought were, you know, that I was close to. And obviously they saw quite a change in me in terms of my sort of mindset growth. You know, also from a weight loss perspective, some friends and family would start to tell me that I started to actually look gaunt and ugly, and that weight loss didn't suit me, despite the fact that I felt completely differently about that. And then I realized that people were actually not supporting me on my journey. They were actually threatened by some of my personal success. And as a general sort of and historic people pleaser, it could have been so easy for me to rein things back and pause or stop my success in order to meet other people's insecurities about themselves. Because that's exactly what people were doing. They were used to the old Allie, and this new improved version of Allie suddenly started to become a little bit prickly to people.
Yeah.
And therefore they were punishing me for actually being successful in actually meeting my own personal goals and seeing some of the successes that I was having.
It's interesting, isn't it? How I remember Tony Robbins talks about this a little bit, in that, as you mentioned yourself, Ali, this could have been a really big derailer for you in your life. And it's simply that the success that you was having was actually shining a light on other people, in potentially saying that, hey, yeah, look at the success I'm having, look at the results that I'm having, potentially why, and then they begin to question themselves, like, why aren't I having that success? Like, how is Ali any different from me in this? Like, I actually feel really, really bad. And that shining a light on them is then, as you say, it's kind of reflecting back on you, isn't it, in that respect?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was absolutely not having any of it, because it taken me a situation where I had to sort of like really dig very, very deep within myself to look back at, you know, my life and my lifestyle and everything else, and actually start to take an awful lot more control about what my future was going to look like. Hence the fact that I completely immersed myself in, you know, this shifting and pivoting in terms of my, you know, my mindset, but my health and my well-being. And it was really important for me to stay on track. But you're right, it could have been so easy to fall into that imposter syndrome mindset, and which is not a great place to be. And therefore lots of, you know, doubts start creeping into your head. And it can be that catalyst between success and failure. And so, you know, what my experience was is that other people were definitely pushing against the changes that they were seeing in me and absolutely, not liking it at all. And during this particular period, I actually launched my life coaching business. And what I noticed is that other coaches started to criticize my strategies only to replicate what I was doing. And it was quite fascinating to watch others react to, some of the things that I was doing in terms of my life coaching. I was very much in supporting peri and menopausal women, but I also support men who are also suffering from the menopause by proxy, because, it's a difficult situation for guys to be in as well. But it was interesting to watch, but I never ever let it derail me from my goals, because I knew deep down that I was actually doing the right thing and the right thing for other people. So we really want to talk a little bit this evening about what strategies you can use to ensure that you don't become a victim of your own success, no matter how small or big they might be. So I don't tell this story to brag or big myself up, but in a way, I did initially think that people wouldn't be so against, my achievements. And it really was a big eye-opener to witness actions and language from people close to me. And I have had similar discussions with people I coach and mentor who have seen the same things happen to them. So it's good to be aware that this is a real thing. This is absolutely something that you will see and you will experience. And you only have to look at social media to see some of the really hurtful and horrible comments some people get when they feel threatened in some way, because they see other people thriving and achieving success in their lives. So Stephen and I want you to be prepared on how to cope with your successes, especially if you're coming up to the half year and you're starting to see some real results coming from your goals.
Yeah, and a couple of thoughts here is that basically what you've described there is a real link back into a couple of our most recent episodes that we've recorded here. Yeah. So firstly, the one about taking calculated risks, right? So there was a bunch of risks that would evidently have been involved in this journey. There's no doubt about it. And one of those is, well, seemingly, it may have been unintentional, but the alienation of people. Like, how would they potentially, or how did they potentially perceive you? And if you continued on that journey and so on, and you balance that with the positives, you feel great, you look great, you've had the outcomes that you want, that's worth it, right? The other one is then around the negative feeling side of things. And you mentioned early on in that, in what you were saying there, that, you traditionally are a people pleaser. And therefore you have this balance that I was hearing there in your life, that it's like if you could have quite easily kind of stopped the trajectory you was on and remained that people pleaser and gone like, well, this journey that I'm on, it isn't actually making people happy. So, their happiness is more important than my happiness. So therefore I'll stop and I'll kind of not get these results. So, maybe worth going back and having a look at those two episodes, because I think there's lots of kind of crossovers into this space, isn't there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, like we were saying earlier on, success is different to everybody. But it's helpful to understand, what success would look like to you when you're, thinking about, as you progress with your goals, however large or small they might be, how they might be perceived by people around you, how they might be. But before you can even contemplate what that might be like to other people, you've really got to think about what success actually means to you. Because if and I'm absolutely going to win at this, then it helps you to remain very, very wedded to some of the things that might go on around you that you cannot really control. You cannot control other people's feelings and emotions and how they feel about what's happening with you. All you can do is to manage your own feelings about how you perceive your success. And I think success kind of like probably falls into three specific areas. It's either to do with like a lifestyle design, which mine very much was. So what would that look like in terms of my health, my wellness, and my mental ability and agility? What does it mean for my family in terms of, my husband and I actually having this kind of outlook on life and our own health and well-being that gives us an opportunity to go into the latter years of our life feeling that we have, this abundance of knowledge about how can we live a full, healthy and quality life. What does it mean in terms of going on holiday or any hobbies that we want to undertake? So a lot of successes will probably fit into that lifestyle design kind of concept. And then you look at your creative freedom and, what does meaningful work feel like for you professionally? Do you feel that you're in a corporate role, but you absolutely yearn to, have your own charity or have your own business or do something that very much plays to your passions in life? What kind of people do you work with and work for, and what are their values, and do they align with yours? Do you feel inspired with, the work that you do? Do you get the opportunity to work on any creative projects? And do you actually have that work-life balance where you get that opportunity to switch off, step back, and actually do whatever it is that you want to do without the rest of the world crashing down around you? And also that means things from your own business perspective. We often see people who go into their own business and they end up working crazier hours than they ever did in the corporate world. And, it becomes an all-encompassing, type of vision. And then I think the third one is that financial stability. What does financial success look like? In order to be able to afford the lifestyle that you want, what's your more than enough number that leaves you with plenty to save for the future and give back, but gives you that financial stability that you can, feel that you've been successful in sort of reaching that, that feeling of financial security. So some of these things in these categories, they kind of become your non-negotiables, and as such become so aligned with them that coping with the successes you becomes easier to accept and celebrate without the feeling of other people's wrath and jealousy, including some of your own imposter syndrome feelings. So, I've talked a little bit about some of my experiences, but as always, Stephen, you've always got some great examples of coping with success in your life. Can you tell us about one or two?
Yeah, and I've been reflecting on possible ones to come across, and there's a funny one at the end that I will mention. But I think the one I'm going to mention is not actually myself, but it's a very close relative. So it's my wife's brother and his partner who I wanted to talk about. So my wife's brother's partner, she's been on a weight loss journey herself, quite a significant one, and she did it through some of the shake-based products and bars and those kind of things that you often hear about. Like it wasn't Herbalife, but those kind of things, and it worked amazingly for her. And at the time, she didn't mention that there was anything actually going on like you experienced, about people seeing in a different light and things. But where she did experience some of this kind of I'll call it negative aspects of success, or negative coverage of success maybe, was when she actually decided to go into that business herself. So she decided to become a brand advocate of the brand that she actually used the resources for to help her on her health and wellness journey. And once again, massively successful. She was still using these products as well because she was still on that journey, but she was also engaging with people. She was basically selling the products into them and so on. And she did gain quite a substantial social media following with that as well, which I think is absolutely fantastic. She's growing the business. She's basically transforming her life. Everything that she's doing in that respect is actually going really well for her. But then she started to get a few haters coming along, commenting, posting on the post that she'd begun to share, which were basically her and her livelihood, right? It was one of her, it was a side job that she actually had. So she was actually earning money from this, and people was basically hating on her. And, you know, she just didn't let it bother her. You know, that was it. She was just basically doing what everybody should do, right? The haters are hating for a reason. Just as Allie has mentioned there, and that I've referenced too, that it's like you're shining a light on people, and they're kind of not going down the journey that you have, and then remaining stagnant as to where they are. But basically, things started to get a little bit much. And what some people started actually commenting about was how they knew, apparently, that Sam's brother was actually having an affair with somebody else. So she was never concerned by this. She obviously asked the question as you would do, right? But she trusted him, and it was all fine. But the posts kept coming and coming and coming, and it was not direct messages only. It was actually public posts around this as well, and it was actually bogging her down a little bit. It was actually getting her quite down. But then she realised what the basis of them all were, and where it was actually picked up from. And she utterly, completely dismissed it at this point, was that Sam's brother went out for the day, and he went out for the day with my wife, his sister. And as an example of somebody that he was apparently having an affair on her with, they basically copied the photo into a direct message of him being out with my wife. Busted. Absolutely busted. Yeah. So, right, okay. These people, these haters, simply pathetic, right? And it's just the fact that they was looking at the work that she was doing, and they was jealous of the work that she was doing, because she'd made such a remarkable transformation journey in her life. Yeah. And, you know, it's just to emphasize that when you are experiencing success, you will get haters in some form who are coming along. I remember on my own transformation journey that, you know, grandparents are buggers, really, aren't they? Grandparents really are. Like, they always say that if you want to know if you've either lost or gained weight, you go and see your grandparent, and they will tell you the God's honest truth. And it used to be the same with my gran as well. Like, when I came back from university all the time, she used to tear into me. But, you know, that's all right. She's a grandparent. But, you know, coping with success, it really is a tangible feeling that we do get. And just as I mentioned with my brother-in-law's partner, you know, if it's not contained in a positive way, it can actually be a catalyst to derailing your goals and having future regrets of essentially what could have been. Just as Ali mentioned, with basically her being traditionally a people pleaser, then if she'd have listened to all those people, that because she was shining a light on the things that they weren't doing, you know, then would she be here telling these amazing stories that she is right now? You know, it can be just as difficult to absorb success as it is to actually accept failure. And some people never feel that they are good enough. It's that imposter syndrome. Or it may be indeed that, you know, you feel as though you don't want to alienate people around them. So basically they may kind of compromise achievements. They may play them down so as to essentially keep naysayers happy. You know, some people, they react to success in the same way that survivors do. And this is to survivors from a perspective of maybe it could be a life-threatening situation. It may be that question that they ask themselves of, why me? Why now? You know, those kind of questions. Now, we both feel that success is something that we should most definitely be embracing, and that we should value, and that we should promote. Just as we spoke about in a recent episode, we should also embrace the negative emotions that are attached to it as well. There's no doubt about it. And in that example that I gave of my brother-in-law's partner, that's a prime example where you can actually sit back and actually laugh at some of that, because you're like, this is just a bit stupid. So what we're going to do now, we're going to actually suggest a few tips to actually help you cope with success. And this is more about kind of the outward visible successes. And hopefully it's in a way that kind of serves you and actually helps to create the ability to essentially be proud of yourself, be proud of the work that you have done. So the first one is to believe that you deserve your success wholeheartedly. So many people who have achieved a dream feel that they don't deserve it. So this can come from a lot of places. And in psychology, it's often termed imposter syndrome. You may have actually heard that term. As we've said previously, it's helpful to have a coach during this journey, somebody who can kind of support you, remind you of the successes and potential challenges that you've actually been through. Now, in all my experiences of receiving and from a coach, this is often one of the first things that we talk about in a conversation. It's so since we last met, what have been your big wins? From me giving coaching, it's the same thing. It's like trying to tease out, what have you been successful in this last period since we just last met? Mm-hmm. And it just helps to kind of really ground it down to then say, like, yeah, well, you've done a lot, haven't you? Because often we do something and then just overlook it and just think, oh, it's only small, it's fine. But it's not. It's actually probably quite big. Now, relating to this, something that you should probably think about doing is actually creating your own board of directors. So these are people who support you in different ways. It could be with words, it could be advice, it could be encouragement, and it's all with a view of basically keeping you on track. So some of these positions that these people could hold, for instance, could be a cheerleader. So somebody who provides a constant support to you, cheering you on from the sidelines. There's then the critic. So these challenge your point of view. So this is not to be critical of what you're doing and intending to do so in a harming way. It's to try to make you think a little bit differently. So instead of taking path A, have you thought about taking this path, which may actually lead you to where you actually want to go quicker? Those kind of things. There's the coach. So these help you figure out solutions and challenges in terms of your mindset, in terms of your thinking. There's then the connector. So the connector helps you to meet people. They help you to network with people. They help you to grow and engage with more people to essentially develop yourself. There's then the community. So these are people who you can share your experience with, and they basically share theirs as well to you in a meaningful way. This is mutual. So the community is a mutual thing. It's like you're sharing your experiences, they're sharing theirs. It's like you're learning from each other. You're developing as one. So the next one, number 2, is don't undervalue yourself. So where you are today could not and would not have happened if it was not for you. That is 100% truth. Now, if you don't give yourself the credit for getting to where you are today, you will be undermining your self-esteem. And that will affect the success you are trying to build upon. Remember, just as we mentioned with number 1, just make sure that you recognize that you did it. You did everything to get to where you are today. You may have had help along the way, but you've had to do a lot of things, which brings us on to number 3. Celebrate your successes. Now, most of the time, ambitious people just move on to the next thing without so much as it could be a sushi dinner, right? You have to celebrate your successes, though, because the celebration helps embed the success chip into your brain. It's essentially this reward element. And besides, you've got to also think you deserve it, right? You've just been out and you just smashed one of your goals. Put as much effort into celebrating your successes as you do in actually getting there in the first place. Now, number 4 is to forget yesterday. So we have all had failures. We've all had mistakes. We've all had errors. Those who claim that they have never failed, that they've never dropped anything, they are lying. There's no question about it. You cannot be successful without missing a few steps along the way. So if this happens, just own up to past failures and just let them go. Holding on to failures is like latching onto a dead weight. Just learn from the failures as much as your successes. Make the changes and measure the success of the pivots and the shifts that you have made. To reiterate with this one, learn from your failures. Take them forward into your successes. So next, number 5. Now don't count on tomorrow. Be happy with what you have created. Don't get caught up in thinking that there will always be an elevator to the top. All successful people have ups, they all have downs. And most of the time, that isn't something that is easy to comprehend, right? But being content with where you are today, right now, is a pretty simple attitude to employ and to instill within your life. It's basically the attitude of gratitude. Now, number six, 2 hands now. Forgive yourself for not being Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. Do you really want to be the richest person in the world? Or is your life really, really nice, just as you have it now? And is it that you may just want it to be just that little tiny bit nicer, which is why you want to stretch yourself that little bit further? And it's okay if you do want to be the richest person in the world. That is perfectly fine. But just recognize that there are a lot of steps to get up to that journey, just as there are in many, many other goals. And number 7, I think this is a really important one, because this is where we then begin to embrace other people who have potentially helped us. So if we go back to number 1, where we spoke about building this board of directors. So number 7 is rewarding those who have helped you. So if you are fortunate enough to have good people supporting you in your endeavors, then it's very important that you basically make sure that they are feeling very, very valued. Money is nice, right? But people, they also want a pat on the back and to be acknowledged by their peers. I look to my work with some of the younger people in my career, and the thing that I get most out of the coaching that I do with them is to hear about the changes that they've seen on the back of it, and the different realizations that they've had, and the different experiences that they're having as a result of it. Yeah. I absolutely love that. Essentially, I won't even call them, it's not even a testimonial, I guess, in that respect, because it's something personal to me that I don't even use outside, right? But those things mean a lot to people. Yeah, it may be that, say, a box of chocolates or a bottle of wine may actually be nice every now and then for somebody, but just recognizing that you can actually go a long way with words. Number 8. So 8 is to understand that success can change how people relate and engage with you. So most people who have become successful, they notice that they are being treated differently after acquiring, it could be fame, it could be fortune, and it's not always for the better. I sometimes see in the media about like some of the real professional sports people, how they accumulate people who are with them simply because of their money and because of their fame. As well, some people may actually be envious of what you've created. So just being aware that basically getting objective advice from some people will actually help you avoid some certain people as well. It could be avoiding certain people who would actually be taking advantage from you, or basically trying to take away what you actually have. So on this one, just be very clear and realistic about your environment and people around you who basically may be attempting to sabotage your success. You may actually need to let some people go. It may be difficult, but it may be for the best. Just prepare to be shocked by who you find is supportive and who is not. Number 9. Put the wrong number of fingers up. It shows it's getting late. So on the reverse of the above point, also accept awards and plaudits when they are freely offered. Awards help you believe that you deserve your success and reinforce that your journey is on the right track. Now, I will be honest with you all, this is one thing that I really do struggle with myself, because the way that I look at my work is that it's a team effort. So it was a few days ago in my main job, we absolutely smashed it out the park in terms of some client pitch, and it was something we pulled together in just a couple of days, and like it was because of it being a demonstration. It was mostly the work that I was doing, and people were like, that was absolutely incredible, brilliant. You did absolutely awesome. But the thing is, to me, it wasn't only me. I was one part of a team of people who was contributing towards this. So a light needed to be shone on everybody else's in terms of their success as well. So yeah, just to put it out there that I do tend to struggle with this one myself. It's something that I am actively working on too. So if you do too, you're not alone. So number 10. Right, so be sure to share your successes. So me personally, I would not be where I am if I did not actually share the successes with the people that I love, right? So my wife, my friends, my family, basically those who support me. Now, relating to the last one, it is a different question sometimes in terms of kind of the other types of people, like maybe into the public domain and so on. But, in the balance of things, this can actually really help with the very first thing that we mentioned, which was around imposter syndrome. If we regularly kind of show gratitude around these things, if we regularly show appreciation as well to basically those who have supported us, then basically we'll be in a very good place. So number 11, whatever. It's all right. It's fine. It would be such a missed opportunity to achieve your success and have that kind of what next question. Now think about what you might do once your success has been achieved. And on this one, I've come across this quite a lot. There's actually a term I've mentioned in many sessions before that I run a lot and I do long distances. I try to do long distance. I'm kind of a marathon runner, a slow marathon runner, but marathon runner nonetheless. And I remember reading when I was doing the training for my first marathon that there was this thing called marathon blues, and it can be used to describe any goal, right? If you just call it insert goal here, blues. And what it is, it's like the high that you get, you're working towards your goal. You're like, boom, 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 boom. I'm smashing this. And like, if I look at the marathon, it's like training, run. I'm doing really, really good. I'm building up my distance. I do the marathon and then bang, drop off a cliff.
Yeah.
What happens? You've got nothing booked in the calendar for the next one. So all of that time that I was taking in these instances of doing all those training runs, which did amount to a lot of time, suddenly gone, vanished. So what do we actually do with our free time at that point? And it can be the same said for your goal as well. That if you're working hard, if you're spending an hour or two every single evening working on your goal, and you get to the point where you've achieved your goal, then what happens?
Yeah.
So just have a think about what is next and do so before you actually finish the goal. So it's like Allie and I have said before, it's about these kind of ladder of experiences up to a big, hairy, ambitious goal. You'll have many, many, many incremental goals all the way up to that big, hairy, ambitious goal. And then you may have 3 big, hairy, ambitious goals on top of this as well, like building on top of that for when you actually smash that big, hairy, ambitious goal out the park.
I wanted to maybe just share a little example of a friend of mine who's sadly passed away now, but had a very successful business that he'd built up over, a 25, 35-year period. And when you actually looked at his personal life, he actually had everything that he wanted. He wasn't massively wealthy, but he had a very comfortable home, a very comfortable life. If he wanted something, he just went out and bought it. And it was almost like, well, where do I go to next? So what he started to use was he started to use his position in the community and the residual income that he had to actually pay it forward to other people. So, he built a sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, but also like a place for the kids to go to where they could go and play, ping pong and, all of that kind of stuff, shoot pool and everything, to get them off the streets, but also to give them somewhere to go at night. He would put on a village fair so that the whole village could, celebrate once a year, the village fete and have a really good time. And he would always put on the beer and everything else. So he actually started to pay it forward. And all of a sudden, the goal of having a successful business manifested into having a successful village where people were happy and felt more fulfilled and had more in terms of their life. Might not have been material things, but it might have just been experiences. So, you know, I was trying to sort of think about the astronauts that went to the moon. You know, that was their focus, that was their goal. Once you actually reach that kind of ambition, where do you go after that? Because it's such a massive achievement. What could top that? Because, you know, that wasn't there for them. So I always think as well, think about whatever that goal might be, how could you then move that forward, that it manifests in another way that would still give you a feeling of, you know, having success, having a goal to work to, that, you know, still keeps you focused and you don't necessarily have that, well, what next question? So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I think I did remember reading about the astronauts who went to the moon as well. That I'm sure that I read that that a vast portion of them did end up entering a quite significant state of depression afterwards.
You could imagine that they would do, yeah.
Yeah, and it's simply because that, no pun intended here, I don't think this is a pun, but yeah, there's nothing on this earth that could match going to the moon, right?
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So the final thing we wanted to just talk about here was basically identifying when is success not actually success as well, right? So just the few kind of lines to mention here. So the first one is, you know, it's great to achieve your goals, but, you know, if it doesn't actually fulfill you, then it's not success. You could actually say that it's actually failure. The next is that if you are materially successful but spiritually bankrupt, then you could argue as well that that is also a failure. If you attain a high position in your job, but it is actually at a detriment to your health and relationships, then, you know, that could potentially be a failure as well. If you are greatly admired, but you are plagued with self-loathing, that is a failure. So success is simply being able to basically say, like, in 10 years' time, I designed this life. I didn't settle for it. I did, or I didn't sacrifice on what was right. You know, success feels and looks different for every single person. It's not basically a destination, but it's basically an ever-evolving journey that we go on. And it doesn't basically come with a map. There's no map. There's no plan. There is no one single path. We basically need to learn to navigate this and embrace some of the kind of ups and downs that we'll experience as we go through it.
I think that's 11 really, really great tips there. I really especially like creating that board of directors, because I think once you establish what your success strategy and structure and organization chart looks like, you're already setting yourself up for success anyway. But I always say, a really good reminder of why you should never really be afraid of success, especially when you have put all the right things and all the right sort of mindset in motion to make sure that, you know, whatever it is that you achieve, it's not at the sacrifice of something else. Own it as your God-given right to achieve your goals no matter what, and always believe in yourself and the value of your journey.
Yeah,
so definitely. As always, we really hope that this has been a useful episode. It's been great personally for me to go back and remember my own sort of like success journeys and what I learned really from people around me over the last sort of 18 months or so. It would be wonderful if you would like and share this episode. And even if you didn't like it, we'd still love to hear your comments, as these are equally meaningful to both of us. Again, bringing you more Mindset Junkie content very soon. Thank you.